As the weeks went by, Felipe found himself gradually adapting to the rhythms of high school life. He juggled classes, basketball practice, and social interactions with a newfound sense of purpose. But it wasn't just about fitting in or keeping up. Felipe realized he had a unique opportunity to make a positive impact on the lives of those around him, thanks to his life experiences and wisdom. One afternoon, as he sat in the cafeteria, he noticed a freshman named Lucas sitting alone, staring at his lunch tray. Lucas was often the target of bullying, and today was no exception. A group of older students snickered and whispered, casting cruel glances in his direction. Felipe's heart went out to the boy. He remembered feeling out of place and misunderstood at that age. Deciding to take action, Felipe grabbed his tray and walked over to Lucas. "Hey, mind if I sit here?" he asked with a friendly smile. Lucas looked up, surprised but nodded. "Sure, Felipe. You don't have to, though." "I'm okay," Lucas mumbled, clearly uncomfortable. "Nonsense," Felipe said, sitting down. "Everyone needs a friend." They started chatting, and Felipe could see Lucas slowly relaxing. He shared stories about his own struggles, carefully choosing words that conveyed understanding without revealing too much about his true age. As they talked, Felipe noticed the group of bullies approaching. He stood up, placing himself between them and Lucas. "Is there a problem?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. The leader of the group, a tall boy named Mark, sneered. "Just having a little fun, Felipe. Why do you care?" "Because picking on someone smaller than you isn't fun. It's cowardly," Felipe replied, holding Mark's gaze. "Why don't you find something better to do?" There was a tense moment, but eventually, Mark shrugged and walked away, his followers trailing behind. Lucas looked up at Felipe, gratitude and relief in his eyes. "Thanks, Felipe. I don't know what I'd have done without you." "No problem, Lucas. Remember, you don't have to face this alone. Stand up for yourself and don't be afraid to ask for help," Felipe said, clapping him on the shoulder. Later that day, Felipe found himself in the library, working on a group project for history class. His partners, Jenny and Carlos, were bickering over the best approach to their assignment. Sensing the tension, Felipe decided to step in. "Hey guys, let's take a step back," he suggested. "We're all aiming for the same goal here, a good grade. How about we combine both your ideas and create something even better?" Jenny and Carlos looked at each other, then back at Felipe. "You know, that might actually work," Jenny admitted. Carlos nodded in agreement, and soon they were brainstorming together, the previous friction forgotten. Throughout the day, Felipe continued to offer advice and support to those around him. In English class, he helped a classmate struggling with an essay, sharing tips on organizing thoughts and constructing arguments. In math, he formed a study group, encouraging everyone to work together and support each other. But it wasn't just academic help he provided. Felipe also found himself offering guidance on personal issues. One afternoon, he noticed Sarah, a usually cheerful girl, sitting alone by the lockers, looking distressed. He approached her gently. "Hey Sarah, everything okay?" he asked, his voice full of concern. She looked up, tears glistening in her eyes. "Not really, Felipe. It's just family stuff. My parents are fighting a lot, and it's hard to focus on anything." Felipe sat down beside her. "I'm really sorry to hear that. Sometimes, things at home can feel overwhelming. Just remember, it's okay to talk about it and to lean on your friends for support. You're not alone." Sarah wiped her eyes and managed a small smile. "Thanks, Felipe. That means a lot." As the weeks turned into months, Felipe's presence became a source of comfort and inspiration to many of his classmates. His unique blend of empathy, wisdom, and genuine care for others earned him respect and admiration. He wasn't just navigating high school again. He was making it a better place for everyone around him. Walking home one evening, Felipe felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This second chance at high school was turning into something more profound than he had ever imagined. It wasn't just about fixing his past mistakes. It was about using his experiences to lift others up, to make a difference in their lives. And in doing so, he found himself healing and growing in ways he had never expected. Under the bright lights of the high school gym, the sound of basketballs hitting the floor and the sharp squeak of sneakers echoed through the space. Felipe stood at the free throw line, focused and determined. The ball felt solid in his hands, familiar and comforting. He took a deep breath, bent his knees, and released the shot. The ball arced gracefully through the air, swishing through the net with a satisfying snap. "Nice shot, Felipe," Coach Harris called out, clapping his hands. "Now let's see that hustle on defense." Felipe nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. Practice had become a sanctuary for him, a place where he could channel his energy and frustrations. Every afternoon, he pushed himself harder, driven by the desire to prove himself and lead his team to victory. The team dynamics were evolving, too. Felipe's initial performance had earned him respect, but now he needed to cement his place as a leader. He watched his teammates closely, studying their strengths and weaknesses. During drills, he offered pointers and encouragement, helping them refine their skills. He wasn't just playing for himself, he was playing for the team. One day, after a particularly grueling practice, Felipe noticed Kevin struggling with his shooting form. Kevin was one of the best players on the team, but lately, his shots had been off. Felipe jogged over, panting but determined. "Hey Kev, let's work on that shot," he suggested. Kevin looked frustrated but nodded, grateful for the help. They spent the next hour on the court, Felipe analyzing Kevin's movements and offering tips. "You're leaning back too much. Keep your balance and follow through," he advised. Kevin adjusted his stance, and after a few attempts, his shots began to improve. "Thanks, man," Kevin said, clapping Felipe on the back. "I was in a slump, but I think I'm getting my groove back." "No problem. We're in this together," Felipe replied, smiling. As the weeks passed, the team's progress was evident. Their practices became more intense, the players pushing each other to excel. Felipe thrived in this environment, his confidence growing with each successful play. He found himself stepping into the role of a mentor, guiding younger players and sharing his knowledge. One evening, after a long practice, Coach Harris called the team together. "All right, listen up," he said, his voice commanding attention. "We've got a big game coming up. I need everyone to bring their A game. Felipe, you've been stepping up as a leader. Keep that up. The rest of you follow his example." Felipe felt a surge of pride. He had come a long way since his first day back, and the recognition from Coach Harris meant the world to him. But he knew that the real test would be in the upcoming game. Game day arrived, and the gym was packed with students, teachers, and parents. The air buzzed with excitement and anticipation. Felipe stood in the locker room with his teammates, the tension palpable. He took a deep breath, feeling the familiar rush of adrenaline. "All right, guys," he began, looking each of his teammates in the eye. "We've worked hard for this. Let's go out there and show them what we're made of. Play for each other, play with heart, and leave everything on the court." The team cheered, the energy in the room electrifying. As they took to the court, Felipe felt a deep sense of purpose. This was more than just a game. It was a chance to prove to himself and everyone else that he had what it took to succeed. The game was intense from the start. Felipe moved with precision and determination, his movements a blend of instinct and strategy. He called out plays, encouraged his teammates, and kept his focus sharp. Every pass, every shot, every defensive move was executed with unwavering commitment. As the clock wound down, the score was tied. The opposing team was strong, but Felipe's team had heart. In the final seconds, Felipe found himself with the ball. He dodged past defenders, his eyes locked on the basket. Time seemed to slow as he leapt into the air, releasing the ball with perfect form. It sailed through the air, the crowd holding its breath. The ball swished through the net just as the buzzer sounded. The gym erupted in cheers, the sound deafening. Felipe's teammates swarmed him, their faces alight with joy and relief. They had won. In the midst of the celebration, Felipe felt a profound sense of accomplishment. This victory was a testament to their hard work, their dedication, and their unity as a team. As he looked around at his teammates, their faces glowing with happiness, he knew that this was just the beginning. With determination and heart, there was no limit to what they could achieve together. The weeks following the big game victory were a whirlwind for Felipe. His confidence soared, not just on the basketball court but in every aspect of his life. Yet, amid all the excitement, one thing remained at the forefront of his mind: Emily. Each interaction with her brought them closer, and he could feel the sparks of their old connection rekindling. One sunny afternoon, as classes ended and students flooded the halls, Felipe spotted Emily by her locker. She was struggling with a stack of books and her cheerleading gear, a frown of frustration on her face. Seizing the opportunity, he approached her with a warm smile. "Need a hand?" he offered, reaching out to help. Emily looked up, her expression softening. "Felipe, yes please. I feel like I'm juggling a circus." They both laughed as he took some of the books from her, the tension of the day melting away. As they walked towards the parking lot, their conversation flowed effortlessly. They talked about school, the upcoming dance, and their favorite TV shows. "Hey, do you have any plans for tonight?" Felipe asked casually, hoping his nerves didn't show. Emily tilted her head, thinking, "Not really. Why? There's a new cafe that just opened downtown. I thought maybe we could check it out together," he suggested, trying to keep his tone light. Emily's eyes sparkled with interest. "That sounds like fun. I'd love to." They agreed to meet later, and Felipe spent the rest of the afternoon buzzing with anticipation. This wasn't just any outing, it felt like the beginning of something special. That evening, Felipe arrived at the cafe a bit early. He chose a cozy table near the window and ordered 2 hot chocolates, remembering how much Emily loved them. When she walked in, looking radiant in a casual dress, his heart skipped a beat. "Hey you," she greeted, sliding into the seat across from him. "Hey," he replied, grinning. "Hot chocolate, just like you like it." She took a sip, her eyes closing in delight. "Perfect. You remembered." They talked for hours, the conversation shifting from lighthearted banter to deeper topics. Felipe shared stories from his childhood, carefully choosing those that wouldn't give away his true age. Emily opened up about her dreams and fears, her voice filled with vulnerability and hope. "I've always wanted to be a journalist," best, she admitted, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup. To tell stories that matter, that make a difference. You'd be amazing at that, Felipe said sincerely. You have a way of seeing the world that's really special. Emily blushed, a soft smile spreading across her face. Thanks, Felipe. That means a lot. As the night wore on, they moved to a nearby park, strolling under the stars. The air was cool, and the distant sounds of the city created a serene backdrop. They found a bench and sat down, the conversation continuing to flow. Do you ever think about the future? Emily asked, her gaze fixed on the sky. All the time, Felipe replied, his mind filled with memories of their future together. I think about what I want to do, who I want to be, and who I want to share it with. Emily turned to him, her eyes searching his. And who do you want to share it with? The question hung in the air, the weight of its significance clear. Felipe took a deep breath, feeling the moment crystallize around them. Someone who's kind and strong, and who makes me want to be a better person, he said, his voice steady. Someone like you, Emily. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, the connection between them palpable. Then, with a soft smile, Emily leaned in, and Felipe met her halfway. Their kiss was gentle and sweet, filled with promise and the thrill of new beginnings. As they pulled away, Emily rested her head on his shoulder, and they sat in comfortable silence. The future was uncertain, but in that moment, everything felt right. Felipe knew that this second chance wasn't just about reliving the past. It was about building a new future, one filled with love, hope, and endless possibilities. And with Emily by his side, he felt ready to embrace whatever came next. Late one evening, after another intense basketball practice, Felipe found himself alone in his room, the house quiet and still. He lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling, his mind a whirlpool of thoughts and memories. The events of the past few weeks had been exhilarating, but they also stirred up reflections on his life, both the one he was living now and the one he had left behind. As he closed his eyes, vivid memories washed over him. He was 36 again, standing in the kitchen of the home he had shared with Emily. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air, and sunlight streamed through the window, casting a warm glow on everything. Emily stood by the counter, her face etched with worry and frustration. They were arguing, the same argument they had countless times about his long hours at work and the growing distance between them. Luke, you need to be here more, Emily said, her voice tinged with desperation. We need you. I need you. He remembered feeling torn, the pressure of his job weighing heavily on his shoulders. I'm doing this for us, Emily. You know that, he had replied, his voice strained, but the words had felt hollow even then. He had known, deep down, that something was slipping away, something far more important than his career. The memory faded, replaced by another. This time, he was at a younger age, sitting in a classroom much like the ones he now frequented. He was 18, filled with dreams and ambition, but also insecurities and doubts. He recalled a conversation with his high school counselor, Mr. Reynolds, who had seen potential in him even when he couldn't see it in himself. Luke, you have so much to offer, Mr. Reynolds had said, leaning forward with a sincere look in his eyes. Don't let fear hold you back. Take risks, follow your passion, and believe in yourself. Those words had stayed with him, guiding him through college and the early years of his career. But somewhere along the way, he had lost sight of that advice, allowing fear and routine to dictate his choices. As Felipe lay there, more memories surfaced, moments of triumph and failure, joy and heartbreak. He saw himself proposing to Emily, the elation and love in her eyes. He relived the birth of their children, the overwhelming sense of responsibility and wonder. He also remembered the fights, the growing distance, and the night she walked out, leaving him to face the emptiness alone. Opening his eyes, Felipe sat up, the weight of these reflections pressing down on him. He had been given a rare and precious gift, a chance to rewrite his story. But it wasn't just about correcting mistakes. It was about honoring the journey, understanding the lessons, and becoming the person he was meant to be. Determined to make the most of this opportunity, he pulled out a notebook and began to write. He wrote about his dreams and aspirations, the kind of person he wanted to be, and the values he held dear. He wrote about Emily and the love they shared, vowing to never take her for granted again. And he wrote about his children, promising to be the father they needed, present and involved in their lives. As he wrote, a sense of clarity and purpose emerged. This wasn't just a second chance, it was a rebirth. He had the wisdom of his 36 years and the vitality of his 18-year-old self. He could blend the best of both worlds, creating a future that honored his past but wasn't bound by it. With his heart and mind aligned, Felipe knew what he had to do. He would cherish every moment, nurture his relationships, and strive to be the best version of himself. He would live with intention and integrity, guided by love and purpose. Closing his notebook, Felipe felt a profound sense of peace. The journey ahead was uncertain, but he was ready to embrace it with open arms. He lay back down, his thoughts calming, and let the quiet of the night envelop him. In the darkness, he found a new light, a beacon guiding him towards a future filled with hope, redemption, and endless possibilities. the anticipation in the gymnasium was palpable. The bleachers were packed with students, parents, and teachers, all buzzing with excitement for the first basketball game of the season. Banners hung from the rafters, and the school's pep band played spirited tunes to hype up the crowd. Felipe stood with his teammates, feeling the energy surge through him. This was the moment he had been preparing for, the culmination of weeks of intense practice and determination. As the team huddled together, Coach Harris's voice cut through the noise. "All right, boys, this is it. We've worked hard for this, and now it's time to show everyone what we're made of. Play with heart, play smart, and support each other out there. Remember, we're a team." The players nodded, their faces set with determination. Felipe felt a rush of pride and responsibility. He looked around at his teammates, seeing the mix of nerves and excitement in their eyes. "Let's go out there and give it everything we've got," he said, his voice strong and steady. "Leave it all on the court." The whistle blew and the game began. From the first tip-off, it was clear that both teams were evenly matched. The opposing team was quick and aggressive, but Felipe's team responded with skill and precision. Felipe moved with confidence, his mind and body in perfect sync. Every pass, every shot, every defensive move was executed with purpose. The first quarter was intense, with both teams trading baskets and playing tight defense. Felipe found himself in the thick of the action, directing plays and encouraging his teammates. Kevin, now back in his groove, sank a three-pointer, and the crowd erupted in cheers. Felipe felt a surge of exhilaration. This was the teamwork and camaraderie he had missed. As the game progressed, the intensity only grew. The score remained close, and every possession counted. Felipe focused on staying calm and composed, using his experience to make smart decisions. He drove to the basket with determination, sinking layups and drawing fouls. He set up his teammates with precise passes, creating opportunities and maintaining the momentum. At halftime, the teams retreated to their benches, sweat pouring down their faces. Coach Harris gathered them in, his voice steady and encouraging. "You're doing great out there. Keep up the intensity, and don't let up. Stick to the game plan and trust each other." Felipe nodded, his mind already strategizing for the second half. He glanced at his teammates, seeing their determination mirrored in his own eyes. "We've got this," he said, clapping Kevin on the back. "Let's finish strong." The third quarter was a battle of wills. The opposing team came out with renewed energy, but Felipe's team held their ground. The lead shifted back and forth, the tension in the gym mounting with each play. Felipe felt the weight of responsibility, but he thrived under the pressure. He continued to drive the team forward, his leadership unwavering. As the fourth quarter began, the game was tied. The crowd was on the edge of their seats, the noise deafening. Felipe felt his heart pounding, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He knew this was the moment that would define the game. With just a minute left on the clock, the opposing team took a narrow lead. Felipe's team called a timeout, gathering around Coach Harris. "We need to stay focused," Harris urged. "One possession at a time. Felipe, I want you to take the last shot. You've got this." Felipe nodded, determination etched on his face. The game resumed, and the ball was in play. The seconds ticked down, and Felipe found himself with the ball at the top of the key. He dribbled, eyeing the defense, then made his move. He drove to the basket, the defenders closing in, but he remained calm and focused. With a swift crossover, he created space and took the shot. Time seemed to slow as the ball sailed through the air. The crowd held its breath, the entire gym falling silent. The ball swished through the net, and the buzzer sounded. The gym exploded in cheers, the sound almost overwhelming. Felipe's teammates rushed to him, lifting him off the ground in celebration. They had won. In the midst of the chaos, Felipe felt a profound sense of accomplishment. This victory wasn't just about the game. It was about hard work, resilience, and believing in himself and his team. As he looked around at the jubilant faces of his friends and teammates, he knew this was a moment he would cherish forever. As the team celebrated, Coach Harris approached Felipe, a proud smile on his face. "Great job out there, Felipe. You led this team to victory." Felipe smiled back, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "Thanks, Coach. It was a team effort." That night, as he lay in bed, Felipe replayed the game in his mind, a smile tugging at his lips. This was just the beginning, and he felt ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. With his team by his side and a newfound confidence, he knew there were no limits to what they could achieve together. The following Monday, Felipe found himself standing outside the school counselor's office, his heart racing with a mix of anticipation and uncertainty. Mr. Reynolds, the counselor, had always been a source of wisdom and guidance during his first run through high school. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, Felipe was eager to seek his advice once more, hoping to navigate his future with newfound clarity. He knocked on the door and heard Mr. Reynolds' familiar voice inviting him in. The office was just as he remembered, filled with motivational posters, college brochures, and a large wooden desk cluttered with papers. Mr. Reynolds looked up from his work and smiled warmly. "Felipe, come on in. Have a seat." Felipe took a deep breath and sat down, feeling the weight of the conversation to come. Thanks for seeing me, Mr. Reynolds. I've been thinking a lot about my future lately, and I could really use your advice. Mr. Reynolds leaned back in his chair, studying Felipe with a thoughtful expression. Of course, I'm here to help. What's been on your mind? Felipe paused, choosing his words carefully. I've been trying to figure out what I want to do after high school. I've always loved basketball, and I'm considering playing in college. But I also want to make sure I'm preparing for a career that I'm passionate about. I don't want to make the same mistakes I did. I don't want to lose sight of what's important. Mr. Reynolds nodded, his eyes kind. It's good that you're thinking about these things, Felipe. Balancing your passions and your long-term goals is crucial. Let's start with basketball. You've been doing exceptionally well this season. Have you thought about pursuing a scholarship? I have, Felipe admitted, but I'm also interested in other fields like business and journalism. I want to find a way to combine my interests. That's a great approach, Mr. Reynolds said. You don't have to choose just one path. Many athletes pursue careers in sports management, business, or media after their playing days are over. Have you looked into any specific colleges that offer strong programs in both athletics and academics? Felipe nodded. I've done some research. There are a few schools that stand out, but I'm not sure which one is the best fit for me. Mr. Reynolds leaned forward, pulling out a brochure from his desk. Let's take a look at some options together. It's important to find a school that aligns with both your athletic and academic goals. Have you considered visiting some campuses to get a feel for the environment? I haven't yet, but I think it's a good idea, Felipe said, feeling a sense of relief at having a concrete plan. I just want to make sure I'm making the right decision. It's understandable to feel that way, Mr. Reynolds said, his tone reassuring. Remember, your future is a journey, not a destination. It's okay to explore different paths and adjust your course as you go. The key is to stay true to yourself and your passions. Felipe nodded, absorbing the advice. Thanks, Mr. Reynolds. I really appreciate your guidance. Anytime, Felipe. And remember, you're not alone in this. Reach out to your coaches, teachers, and family for support. They want to see you succeed just as much as I do. As Felipe left the counselor's office, he felt a renewed sense of direction and purpose. The conversation with Mr. Reynolds had given him clarity and confidence to pursue his dreams without losing sight of his values. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to face it head-on. Later that day, Felipe found Emily by her locker. She smiled as he approached, her eyes lighting up. Hey, how'd your meeting with Mr. Reynolds go? It went really well, Felipe replied, feeling a surge of excitement. We talked about my future plans, and I've got some great ideas for college. I'm thinking about visiting a few campuses soon. That's awesome, Felipe, Emily said, her smile widening. I'm so proud of you. You're really figuring things out. Thanks, Emily. It means a lot to have your support, he said, feeling a deep connection with her. Maybe you could come with me on some of these visits. It'd be great to have your perspective. I'd love that, she replied, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. We can make it a fun adventure. As they walked to their next class together, Felipe felt a sense of peace and excitement about the future. With Emily by his side and a clear vision of his goals, he knew he could navigate whatever challenges came his way. The journey was just beginning, and he was ready to embrace it with open arms and an open heart.